Stop. Just stop what you are doing. Because what I am about to tell you is not science fiction. It is not a theory, it is not a story someone made up to get views. What I am about to tell you is the account of the single most important moment in human history. A moment that happened not in the future, not in some distant galaxy, but on a Tuesday, a completely ordinary Tuesday, when the war came to us. Most people do not know this happened, not because it was kept secret, but because when it happened the human brain simply could not process it. People saw it, they recorded it, they uploaded it, and then they told themselves it was something else. A weather balloon, a military test, a drone show gone wrong because the alternative was too enormous to survive. The alternative was this. We are not alone, we have never been alone. And the war that has been raging across this galaxy for 11,000 years finally noticed us. My name does not matter. What matters is that I was in the room. I was in the room when the first signal came in. I was in the room when the translation was confirmed. And I was in the room when the general looked at all of us and said 4 words that changed everything. He said they're asking us. Not demanding, not commanding, asking. A civilization that had crossed 60 light-years of open space that had weapons capable of sterilizing entire moons was asking humanity for help. And here is where the story really begins, because we said yes. 18 months before that Tuesday, something changed in the data, not dramatically, not with explosions or flashing lights. It changed the way a heartbeat changes when something frightens you, subtle, rhythmic, deliberate. The signal was repeating on a frequency that no natural phenomenon could produce. The team lead, a quiet woman named Dr. Yara Osei, stared at the readout for 11 minutes before she spoke. Then she picked up the phone and said 6 words, "I think you should come here." Within 48 hours, the analysis was complete. The signal was not random, it was structured, layered, it contained embedded mathematics, geometry, and something no one expected: emotion. The signal carried something that registered even to machines as grief. The governments of Earth were notified quietly, no press conference, no announcement, just 14 people in a room in Geneva looking at a blinking dot 63 light-years away in the direction of the Lyra constellation, a dot that was moving toward us, at a speed that should have been impossible. Dr. Osei raised her hand and said what everyone in that room was thinking. If they sent this signal 18 months ago and they are already here, they were not waiting for a reply. They were already coming. The signal was not an introduction. It was a warning. The room went completely silent. Outside, somewhere in Geneva, a church bell was ringing. Inside, 14 of the most powerful people on Earth sat in silence and understood something that would take the rest of the world years to accept. We were not being visited, we were being recruited. 3 weeks later they arrived, not with the cinematic grandeur that every film had promised us. No hovering mothership over New York, no beam of light descending from the clouds. They arrived the way a surgeon arrives, precisely, quietly, with purpose. A single vessel, roughly the size of a football stadium, positioned itself in low Earth orbit. It did not broadcast, it did not make demands, it simply waited, as though it already knew we needed time. The first human transmission to the vessel was a mathematical sequence. Prime numbers, our universal hello. The vessel responded in 4 seconds, not with mathematics, with language, our language in English, Mandarin, Arabic, and Swahili. It said one sentence. We have been listening to you for a long time. We are sorry we could not come sooner, but the war would not allow it. The beings who came to us were not what anyone expected. They were not the cold, insectoid creatures of science fiction. They were not humanoid robots or glowing orbs of light. They were tired. That was the first word every human observer used when they finally saw them. Tired. They moved like soldiers at the end of a very long campaign, with the precise, efficient movements of beings who had learned to conserve every resource, including energy, including emotion. Their skin was deep gray. Their eyes were wide and dark. Their hands had 7 fingers, and when they bowed to the first human delegation, every person in that room felt something ancient and heavy in the gesture. They called themselves the Varek, which, in their oldest language, translates roughly as those who remained. The war they told us about had no clean beginning. It did not start with an assassination or a treaty violation. It started the way most catastrophes start, with a resource and a choice and a refusal. 11,000 years ago, in a solar system that no longer exists, a species discovered how to harvest energy directly from the quantum field. Limitless power, infinite abundance, the dream, but the process had a cost that this species chose to ignore. Every extraction weakened the fabric between dimensions, slowly at first, then faster. The neighboring civilizations warned them, once, twice, 11 times, and each time the answer was the same: our progress cannot stop for your fear. So the neighbors did what beings do when words fail. They acted, and the species that would not stop chose war over change. 11,000 years later, that war was still burning. 37 civilizations had been consumed by it. 14 had gone extinct trying to end it. The aggressors, now calling themselves the Vorn, had evolved around warfare. They had built an empire held together entirely by conflict. Their biology had changed. Their culture had calcified. They did not know how to exist without an enemy. And the Varek, the tired ones, the ones who remained, were losing. The lead Varek diplomat, a being they allowed us to call Commander Serin, explained this to the human delegation over 3 days of careful conversation. She spoke slowly. She chose her words with extraordinary precision, and at no point did she ask for pity. She asked for something harder than that. She asked for creativity. This is the part of the story that most people do not understand. The Varek did not come to Earth because humans were the strongest species they had encountered. We were not even close to the strongest. We did not have the fastest ships. We did not have the most powerful weapons. We had been on Earth for less time than some of their military campaigns had lasted. They came to us because of something the Vorn could not predict, could not prepare for, could not simulate: human chaos, human stubbornness, human illogic. Commander Serin put it this way: every civilization we have fought alongside has been rational. They calculate odds, they minimize losses, they retreat when the data says retreat. The Vorn have learned to defeat rational minds, but humans do not always do what the data suggests. Humans do things that make no logical sense, and sometimes those things work. A general in the back of the room laughed. It was the only laugh in an otherwise terrified silence, and Commander Serin turned toward him and said something that became famous. Yes, exactly like that. The debate that followed was the most important conversation in human history, and it happened mostly in secret, which, if you think about it, is very human. On one side were those who said no. Their argument was straightforward: we are not ready. We are still killing each other over borders and beliefs. We have not solved hunger. We have not solved disease. We have no business fighting in an 11,000-year-old war we did not start. And most critically, if we join and lose, Earth becomes a battlefield. On the other side were those who said yes. Their argument was also straightforward: the Vorn already know we exist. Commander Serin confirmed it. We have been in their files for 400 years. They have been watching us, waiting to see if we would become something worth conquering. Whether we join this war or not, we are already in it. The only question is whether we choose our side or have it chosen for us. The debate lasted 19 days. 19 days of arguments, of tears, of raised voices and slammed doors. 19 days of the most brilliant and terrified minds on Earth talking past each other, talking through each other, slowly and painfully arriving at something like truth. On day 17, a young analyst named Marcus Webb, who had barely slept in a week, stood up in the middle of a heated argument and said something that cut through everything. He said, "We keep asking whether we are ready, but the Varek were not ready either 11,000 years ago. No one is ever ready. Readiness is a story we tell ourselves to avoid the moment of decision. The moment is here, right now, in this room, and the only thing I know for certain is that we will not be the generation that looked away." The room was quiet for a long time after that. Then one by one the people in that room began to nod. The vote was not unanimous. Nothing involving humans ever is, but the vote was yes. The agreement with the Varek was unlike any treaty humans had ever negotiated. There were no territorial claims, no resource demands, no fine print designed to benefit one side at the expense of the other. The Varek had learned, through 11 millennia of war and alliance, that agreements built on exploitation collapse when you need them most. The terms were simple. Humanity would contribute tactical creativity, ground-level adaptability, and what Commander Serin called with complete seriousness unpredictability as a weapon. The Varek would contribute technology, transportation, training, and something they had developed over thousands of years of war: a shield, not just for our soldiers, for Earth. The day that agreement was signed, Commander Serin did something that had not been recorded in 11,000 years of Varek diplomacy. She smiled. It was, by human standards, a small smile, barely a curve at the corner of her wide dark eyes, but everyone in the room felt it, everyone in the room understood. She was not smiling because she had gained an ally. She was smiling because for the first time in a very long time she had found something worth fighting toward, not just fighting against. The first joint mission launched 8 months after the agreement was signed. 42 human soldiers embedded with a Varek battalion of 300. Their target was a Vorn relay station in the outer edge of what we would call the Cygnus region. A small mission by Galactic war standards, but the first missions have weight. The human soldiers trained for 6 months aboard a Varek vessel. They learned the basics of Varek combat language, Varek battle formations, Varek technology, and the Varek soldiers learned something they had not expected to learn: how to laugh, how to joke at exactly the wrong moment, how to find absurdity in impossible situations and use that absurdity as fuel. The Varek commander assigned to lead the human unit was a veteran of over 200 engagements. He had fought longer than any human civilization had existed. His name, transliterated, sounded something like Dreven. On the third day of joint training, after watching a group of human soldiers dissolve into laughter during a drill that had gone catastrophically wrong, he stood very still. Then he turned to his aide and said in perfect English, "I believe I understand now why they are hard to kill." The mission itself took 11 hours. The Varek plan called for a precise 3-stage assault: disable communications, breach the outer ring, extract the target data, clean, logical, mathematically optimal. In the 4th minute of Stage 1, everything went wrong. The Vorn had upgraded their defense grid. The Varek's models were 3 months out of date. 2 of the 3 approach vectors were completely blocked. By every rational calculation, the mission should have been aborted. But a human sergeant named Daniela Reyes was looking at the map and thinking something completely irrational. She was thinking about a parking garage. Specifically, the parking garage in Bogota where she had once hidden from a gunfight by going up instead of out. Nobody goes up, she had thought then. Nobody ever goes up. She said it out loud in that mission briefing in the middle of a Varek warship with an 11,000-year war on the line. Nobody goes up. What if we go up? The Varek strategist ran the calculation in 2 seconds. It made no logical sense. The upper approach had a 31% chance of success. He was about to say so. Then Commander Dreven looked at Sergeant Reyes and said, "How many times has 31% been enough for you?" She thought about it. "More than it should have been," she said. They went up. The relay station was breached in 40 minutes. All soldiers returned. The data extracted contained coordinates for 17 Vorn command positions that had been hidden for 60 years. When Commander Serin received the report, she read it 3 times. Then she sent a single line of communication back to Earth. It said, "We told you." I am telling you this story not because it has a happy ending. It does not yet. The war is still ongoing. Humans are still fighting in it. Some have not come back. Some have come back changed in ways that no debrief can fully capture. I am telling you this story because of something Commander Serin said to me once, near the end of a very long conversation about why civilizations fall. She said, "Every species we have encountered in 11,000 years of conflict has ultimately been defined by one choice, not the choice of whether to fight, not the choice of which side to join, the choice of what they fight for. The Vorn fight to preserve a way of life built on taking. We fight to preserve the right of others to exist. It is a small difference from a distance, but it is the only difference that matters." She paused, and I asked her what humans fight for. She was quiet for a long time, then she said, "Humans fight for things that do not yet exist, a world they have imagined but not built, a future they have promised to people who are not yet born. This is strange to us. We have never encountered it in quite this form, but I think it may be the most powerful force in the galaxy because it cannot be calculated, it cannot be defeated, it can only grow. So this is where we are, in a war older than our civilization, alongside beings who have carried it for longer than we have existed. Armed with our illogic, our parking garage instincts, our 31% solutions, and our impossible, irrational, completely human habit of hopping. The Vorn expected the galaxy to end the war. They did not expect us. Nobody expects us. That is, it turns out, our greatest strength. The war continues, and humanity is just getting started.